Hi, welcome to the Cat Scrappiness channel. This is April with the design team and I have a fun spring card for you today. Going to use the newer Birdie Birdhouse craft dies, the Stitched Clouds backdrop die, and the Hippity Hoppity sentiment stamp set. The Birdie Birdhouse craft dies was from our last release and is super cute. So we're going to start with the Stitched Clouds backdrop die. This die is perfect for an A2 card. And I put it on some light blue cardstock and it gives these sweet little stitched clouds. So once we have that ran through our die cut machine, I'm going to put that backdrop die back so I don't misplace it, and going to push that up out of the way, and then we're going to grab the Birdie Birdhouse craft dies. I do not have mine cut apart, and if you'll notice, when I cut them apart, they look different than they do now. One of these little dies gets misplaced, and I will show you what I do when I can't find it, but in the end I find it. You'll see that at the end of the video. So I have already went and ran all of this through my die cut machine. I have all my pieces here to put together. So I put all my tiny pieces in, that's just a water coloring palette that I bought off of Amazon. I put all my tiny pieces in there so I don't lose them. And let's put our birdhouse together. I think this birdhouse is super cute. I love the angle of the roof. It's a little different than just the traditional birdhouse with that A-line roof. So super cute. Gives it a little bit more personality. And this is where I noticed that I'm missing the little post for my birdhouse. I know I had the die. I cut that out, but I did look everywhere for it. So I know it was here in my craft room. It was just a matter of time to find it. But hey, these two little pieces here, when I put them together, it just looks like it's on a wood post versus the other one that just cuts a solid image without any impressions in it. And that one to me looks more like a metal post. So either works just fine. So I cut this out of some black cardstock, glued it together, gonna let that glue set up. And then I have another piece of the gray that I cut out of that same die to add our roof line. So now we need to figure out how the front of this little birdhouse is all going to come together. I chose some fun spring colors. So I have a lavender and a purple, and was just kind of seeing how that looked, and then going to decide how I want my birdhouse to sit on the little post, and going to get that glued on there with some liquid adhesive. I use the Barely Arts craft glue. We have that in the Cat Scrappiness shop. It's my favorite glue. I love it. And so I've decided that I want to pop up this little entranceway and this front little detail to our birdhouse. So I'm just using some foam squares and gonna put those all into place. And I'm also going to use those foam squares to hold these little pieces in place. Works perfect. Don't have to worry about trying to add any other adhesive or a whole nother solid layer. They stick perfectly to the foam squares through the openings. So I'm just putting everything in place, adding foam squares, and I just have these larger foam squares. I do not know what happened to all my minis. I know those are the ones I use mainly, and I'm just running out, but you can take these larger ones and cut them in half or into quarters and help fill in all those smaller places that you need. So I do that all the time. I even cut my minis in place. I like to have lots of foam on the back of anything I'm going to pop up, so I go through quite a few of them. So now that I have that filled with foam tape, I'm going to remove that release paper, and then we'll just pop that on the front of our birdhouse. And once I have that done, we will set that aside. I'm just kind of seeing where I think I want it, and I think it fills the card really well, but to me I'm going to add a sentiment, so I'm kind of, am I going to want it in the middle? Am I going to want it off to the side? I grab my Hippity Hoppity sentiments, and I'm just kind of playing with how wide they are to see where I want that. That's just part of my creative process. And especially with dies, you can really move things around. So Now that I've decided where I want to put that, I'm going to again grab a bunch of these foam squares. They work perfect, and I'm going to put those all over the back of the birdhouse and on the little post. And I'm going to use plenty of them to make it nice and stable when we put this through the mail. You could also use foam tape here. That would have went a lot quicker, but I had the little foam squares out on my work surface, so I just grabbed those. The worst part about the little foam squares is these little backer papers get all over my floor because I tend to sweep them into my hand and only about half of them land in my hand. But that's okay. I just vacuum them up at the end of the day. So we're going to put this off to the side. This way we have room for our sweet little springtime greetings that we're going to add here in a bit. I just flip this panel over, clip off anything that's hanging over the edge, and then I'm just going to kind of tidy up my work surface. I do tend to like to be as tidy as I can when I'm working. I create best in that environment. So I flipped my little bird over and I just used a little piece of tape. It's the same tape I use to hold my dies in place when I run them through a die cut machine. I just put a little tiny bit of that right behind the eyes so that when I flip it over to the front, I can put these eyes in place and there's something sticky behind them to hold them into place. Because I am going to pop these birds up, and this is the best way I've found to hold those little eyes in place. I'm going to add the little color to his chest area and, well, her, and put these little wings on each side. I love these little birds. I love that they're so round and plump. They totally remind me of the birds in our yard right now. We have a ton of baby cardinals out there, and they're just little round poofy guys. So cute. And the last little piece I need to add that really makes this little bird pop is that little tiny beak. And again, this is why I use a little container to hold all of my little die cut pieces, is because you will see I have my beak and my eyes in there. If I just left them on my work surface, I would worry I would accidentally sweep them up when I was, moving stuff out of the way. So again, I just put that tape on the back, flipped my bird around. I didn't want to go too light with my little bluebird just because we had the blue cloud background. So I wanted there to be enough color darkness for there to be some contrast, but I really wanted a bluebird. So I cut him out of more of a medium blue and then just grabbed some navy blue colors for his chest and his wings, and these little pieces just fit perfectly. I do use an embellishment wand to pick them up. I just find it's easier to kind of move them in place and get them just where we need them to be. And it just takes a little tiny bit of glue on each of these little wings and get them where they need to be. So now I have my two birds, and we need to do the sentiments. So I grabbed the Hippity Hoppity sentiment stamp set, and I'm going to put two of the sentiments together. I'm going to put the Wishing You A and the Happy Spring. I'm going to stack those right on top of each other on some black cardstock. I'm going to heat emboss. So once I get these lined up where I want them on my MISTI, I'm going to grab some VersaMark ink, and I am also going to grab my telescopic anti-static wand from Cat Scrappiness to put my anti-static powder down to really prep that cardstock. I love this anti-static powder tool. I love that it puts a good amount of the powder out, so I know I'm not going to have any little strays of my embossing powder floating around, especially on black. So I'm just using some white embossing powder here, sprinkling it over that stamped sentiment. Gonna clean up my sentiments and put those back into my stamp set. I think this is a really fun sentiments set for spring. It has a ton of really cute spring and summer little sentiments, and I don't have a lot of those, so this was a perfect addition to my craft studio. So I'm going to heat that up. I do heat it up from the front and the back until it's nice and melted. I try to do both sides just so it doesn't warp so much. I do let it cool a little bit, and then I take my little microfiber cloth and dust off that extra embossing powder or anti-static powder. We don't need to see that. And now I'm just kind of deciding how big I need my sentiment to be. Oh, and look what I found. I found that little base. It was actually connected to the cord of my heat tool. And when I went to put my heat tool back, I accidentally missed the hook and dropped it. And when I reached down and grabbed it, I found that die. I knew it hadn't went far. It was literally right underneath my feet. So I decided to cut my little sentiment. I gave it a little angle on one side just because I think the angle from the roof is really fun. And this kind of mimics it, just go in the opposite direction. I think the two angles add a lot of interest to the card. I just glued that directly to the back. I have a lot of things being popped up. So now where do I want my little birds? So I'm just kind of moving them around, seeing where I want them. And up there in the upper left corner, you will see my reverse tweezers. Those are a must-have in the craft room. I use those on every single project. Can't have too many pairs of those. So I just put a foam square on the back of the little blue bird and one on the back of the little pink bird. And I decided to put her up on the top of the birdhouse. I think that's really cute. And once I have those into place, I'm going to glue that to a top folding card base. I just have these all prepared in a drawer ready to go, just with some heavyweight cardstock. And I use plenty of liquid adhesive to do that. I'm really going to press that down. And then I realized I forgot the little center of the birdhouse because you want it to look dark in there. So I just grabbed that little circle die and ran that through my die cut machine and popped that right into place. And I put that all the way back on the birdhouse. I didn't want that popped up because you want it to have some dimension when you look at it in real life. And the last thing I need is a few embellishments. So I'm going to grab my embellishment tray. Love this tray. And I grabbed some of the mother of pearl solid round confetti sequins. These are so sparkly and they go with everything. They kind of pick up the colors that are around it and work perfect for this card. So this is my process. Where do I want them? I'm just kind of moving them, figuring out where that is. You can unscrew the little lid on this and everything funnels right back into those little packages perfectly. I love it. So once I have those where I want them to be, I'm going to grab my Ranger multi-medium matte adhesive and glue those down. That is just what I choose to glue my embellishments down with. The other glue works fine. This is just how I do it. So this is my cute little birdhouse card for you today. I hope this inspires you to get your supplies out and start making some fun spring cards. So excited, spring's right around the corner. Thank you so much for stopping by our channel today. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button. We sure appreciate it and it sure helps us out. We'll see you next time. Bye.